She texted me on a Tuesday night while I was driving home. The notification popped up like it always did. Mia. I thought it would be something small, a meme, or maybe a what should we eat tonight kind of message. But it wasn't. The text was longer than usual, carefully worded, like she had written and rewritten it before sending. I've been thinking a lot lately. I feel like I'm losing myself in this relationship. I need some time to figure myself out. Please don't call or text. I want no contact for a while. I read it once, then twice. By the third time, my hands were shaking. The phrase no contact felt colder than it should. 3 years together, through college, job changes, family drama, we had just started talking about moving in together. And yet, with a few carefully chosen sentences, everything was paused. Or maybe ended. I called. She didn't answer. I texted back, Mia, can we just talk for a minute? No reply. Just silence, thick, suffocating silence that made me aware of every heartbeat in my chest. The next few days, I tried to stay normal. I went to work, replied to friends, smiled when people asked how I was. But every time I looked at my phone, I waited for a short message or even an emoji. Nothing. She was gone like she'd never existed. Her Instagram was wiped clean. No new posts, no stories. Even her friends, silent. I told myself she just needs time. But deep down, I knew I was lying. This space wasn't about finding herself. It was about losing me. Then, on a Sunday morning, I got a message. From her mum, Karen, mum of Mia. Hey, sweetheart. Do you have a minute? I'd like to talk. I was surprised. Karen was kind, the type to send recipes or check in once in a while. But this time, her tone felt ... hesitant. Careful, sure, what's going on? The typing dots appeared, disappeared, came back again. Finally, the message came through. I think you have the right to know what's really going on ... About Mia, I froze. Is she okay? I asked. She's fine, just not the way she told you. Then she sent a photo. I opened it. Mia smiling, standing next to a man. Not a stranger, but not anyone I'd ever known. His hand rested casually on her waist. They looked comfortable, familiar, intimate. My chest tightened. Karen sent another text. You should know. She's not finding herself. She's with him. I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen. My mind went blank. No anger, no heartbreak, just ... clarity. Cold, unfeeling clarity. More photos followed. Different places, different days, same man, same closeness, laughing, holding hands, eating together. I finally typed back, thank you for telling me. Please don't tell her you sent this. Karen replied with a single thumbs up emoji, blunt, final dot. It should have ended there. But it didn't. I couldn't stop thinking. Not because I was heartbroken. Because I was curious. I started studying the photos. Every corner, every reflection. And in one shot, I saw it a reflection in the cafe window. The person taking the picture. It wasn't Karen. It wasn't anyone I recognized. Someone else had taken it. That's when I realized these photos weren't found. They were sent, deliberately. Karen wasn't just a mother who stumbled upon the truth. She was controlling the story, making sure I knew before Mia could twist it. I deleted the messages, blocked them both. If Mia wanted no contact, I'd give it to her, but this time, on my terms. 3 days later, a notification appeared on Facebook. Karen had tagged me in a post, a childhood photo of Mia with the caption, "Sometimes we think we know someone until they show us who they really are." My name was right there, tagged publicly. The comments started flooding in. Friends, family, strangers, everyone speculating, whispering. I didn't react, didn't delete the tag, didn't message anyone. I just scrolled, reading every line like someone watching a car crash they were part of. And then Mia texted, "Why did my mum tag you in that post?" No greeting, no apology, just sharp, cold words. I typed a few letters, then erased them. Finally, I didn't send anything at all. Some truths don't need to be said. They simply exist, quiet, merciless, and irreversible. After that text from Mia, I knew the game had changed. She wanted control, to decide when to disappear, when to return, when to rewrite what happened. And people like her always come back. They need to be the one holding the narrative. So I waited. Not out of hope, out of patience, out of principle. For 2 weeks, I said nothing. I didn't unblock her, didn't post, didn't vent, didn't even mention her name. But I watched, quietly, coldly, her social media slowly flickered back to life. A story here, a comment there, a photo of her coffee cup, then one of her and that same guy, cropped just enough to look ambiguous. I could almost hear her thinking, if I make it subtle enough, maybe he'll still wonder. Maybe he'll still care. IDN, single quotes. Meanwhile, people started asking questions. "Hey man, are you and Mia still together? Did something happen?" I gave the same answer every time, a small neutral smile. "We're just taking some time apart." The tone mattered. Calm, balanced, detached, because in America, appearances are everything. You don't have to win emotionally. You just have to look like you already did. Then something shifted. Karen messaged again. "Just so you know," she wrote, "Mia and that man, they're not doing so great." I didn't respond, but I read every word. She's been distant, cold, even with him. Maybe she's realizing what she lost. I didn't believe it, not entirely. But I understood Karen's motive now. She wasn't protecting me. She was punishing her daughter. And I was just the tool she'd chosen. Still, I let it play out. A week later, Mia finally reached out again. The text came in late, around midnight. "Hey, how have you been?" No apology, no acknowledgement, just a soft test of the waters, like tossing a pebble into a lake to see if it ripples. I waited a full day before replying. "Doing all right, you?" Simple, measured, emotionless. She replied instantly. "Good, I've been thinking about you a lot lately." I could picture her typing it, probably lying next to him, feeling guilty for reasons she'd never admit. That message wasn't about missing me. It was about checking if I was still available to miss her. So, I gave her what she wanted. Distance disguised as warmth. "Glad to hear that," I wrote back. "Take care of yourself." That line, polite, empty, final, works like a knife in slow motion. The next day, she posted a quote on her story. Something vague and emotional. "Sometimes we lose the ones who are meant to stay." Then a black and white selfie. Then another of her walking alone. Her followers flooded the comments with hearts and stay strong messages. I didn't react. I didn't even open the story from my account, but I saw it through a friend's, because sometimes silence is louder when it's deliberate. 2 nights later, she called. My phone buzzed once, twice, then stopped. I didn't answer. I didn't even move. I just watched her name fade from the screen. That was when I realized something. Revenge doesn't always require action. Sometimes it's just a matter of restraint. Making someone live with the consequences of their own decisions. And Mia, she was already drowning in hers. By the end of that week, she called again. Left a voicemail this time. Her voice sounded small, careful. Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry for how I ended things, for ... everything. I didn't delete it. I didn't save it either. I just listened, then let the silence after her voice stretch on like a closing curtain. That night, I opened my notes app again, the same one I'd titled When She Comes Back. I added a second line under the first. Pretend nothing happened. Let her think she's forgiven, because in her mind, forgiveness is closure. But in mine, it's a sentence without end. 3 weeks passed. No texts, no calls, no sign of her. It felt like Mia had evaporated from the world entirely. I tried to act normal, went to work, hit the gym, answered messages, even laughed when people joked. But everything I did felt hollow, when there's no one left to share the little things with. Even time starts to drag like it's mocking you. I used to think silence was a form of respect in love. She said she needed space, and in my pride, I believed giving her that was the mature thing to do. But that silence didn't heal anything. It just swallowed me whole. The apartment still looked the same, emptier. Her grey hoodie hung on the back of the chair. The vanilla candle she loved sat half-burned on the coffee table. Even her favorite mug still had a faint coffee ring on the wooden desk. Every time I tried to clean up, my hand froze mid-air. It felt like erasing her things would make her disappear completely, like she'd never been here at all. Some nights, I'd scroll through our old messages, those simple, everyday lines, made it home safe, or don't forget to eat. Dummy, now they cut like paper against skin. I'd stare at her last text, wondering if she ever thought of me, wondering if she'd already replaced me. By the 4th week, I got my answer, just not in the way I expected. A friend sent me a post. I wasn't planning to open it. I'd been avoiding anything tied to her. But when I saw her mum's name tagged, I froze. It was a picture of Mia. She was smiling wide, carefree, the way she used to when she'd laugh at my terrible jokes. Except now, she wasn't alone. There was a guy next to her. Not a stranger, but definitely not someone I'd ever met. His arm rested lightly on her shoulder, and her body leaned toward him in a way that said everything words didn't have to. But what gutted me wasn't the picture. It was the caption under it. "They make such a perfect couple," posted by her mum. My stomach dropped. Her mother knew me. She used to say I was the first man who ever made her daughter feel safe. And now, she was publicly celebrating Mia and some guy I'd never seen before, while I was still believing Mia was finding herself. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling something deeper than anger, like the floor had given out under me. I picked up my phone, thumb hovering over Mia's name. For a second, I imagined calling her, hearing that soft, careful voice saying, "It's not what it looks like." But I'd heard that line before, Too many times, so I didn't call. I didn't text. I just sat there as the rain started to fall outside, watching the drops trace down the glass like tiny cracks spreading across everything I thought I knew. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel angry or sad, just empty, like all the love, all the trust, all the noise had been replaced by a silence too heavy to breathe through. I started writing everything down, not to send, but just to stop myself from going insane. Sleepless nights found me in front of the screen, typing line after line, deleting and typing again. You said you need time for yourself. But have you ever thought that in that time, someone else still has to exist, still has to learn to breathe in silence? I didn't send that message. I just saved a nameless file on my computer called mia.docx. I wrote those lines in the middle of the night, when the world seemed asleep. Every sentence felt like a blade slicing into my soul. I wondered if she ever thought about me, or if it was just a fleeting moment in her life. But I didn't answer. I didn't know who I should even answer to anymore. Sometimes I would open it again. Every line felt like an old scar dry, then bleeding all over again. I tried to forget. I really did. I stayed late at work, took on extra projects, met up with old friends. I walked along familiar streets I hadn't visited in months, watching couples laugh, families stroll on weekends. But wherever I went, her shadow lingered floating in someone's laugh, in the faint scent of perfume drifting down the street, or in some random song popping up on my playlist. Every little thing made my chest tighten, as if she had never left. One night, while cleaning out my closet, I found an old camera. The memory card was still inside. I opened it. Hundreds of photos, her and me, from the early days, short trips, lazy mornings, and nights lit only by the yellow glow of the kitchen light. I thought I was ready to look back. I wasn't. After a few seconds, my chest ached. The worst part wasn't losing her, was losing a piece of myself I had once given away that night. I decided to delete every photo. I selected each one slowly, as if saying goodbye to every memory. For each photo, I lingered a little longer, staring at her smile, her eyes, the moments I thought I would never forget. When I reached the last photo, I paused. It was a picture she had taken of me while I was asleep. Dim light, slightly off angle, but her smile, gentle, sincere. I couldn't delete it. I shut down the computer, leaving it there, letting that image remain as a reminder that love can be beautiful. But sometimes it just doesn't belong to you. Then I realized something had changed inside me. I no longer wanted to hold on. Not because I stopped loving, but because I understood some people don't leave because they don't love you. They leave because they don't know how to love anyone but themselves. And sometimes, true love isn't chasing someone to keep them, it's stopping, to keep yourself. A week later, I got an email from an unknown address. The subject line was simple. I didn't mean to hurt you. No guessing needed. I knew immediately who it was. My hands trembled, but I didn't open it. I left it unread, didn't delete it. Some apologies come too late, not because time has passed, but because the person listening is no longer the same. I thought about all those sleepless nights, the unsent messages, the memories I deleted but that still echoed somewhere in my chest. I closed my laptop and looked out the window. Far away, the city still shone bright. People still loved, broke up, promised, and betrayed like the world had never stopped for even a second. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, I truly felt myself breathe. No waiting, no resentment. Only one thing remained, a cold serenity, frighteningly real, yet mine. A serenity I had never dared to imagine before, and perhaps this very coldness was the first step toward truly living again. The next morning, I didn't want to open Mia.docx anymore. I left it there, lying quietly like a silent witness to the time that had passed, not to delete, not to read. I didn't want to fight the past anymore. I just wanted to let it be. Part of me that had existed and then quietly faded away. I went outside and walked down the old streets we used to pass together, where we once shared early mornings and waited at red lights amid the noise of traffic. Everything looked the same, only I had changed. The little coffee shop on the corner still played soft music. The owner still greeted familiar customers with a smile, but the chair where we used to sit was taken by someone else. I paused for a moment, then turned down another street. The autumn breeze brushed my skin, carrying just enough chill to wake me up. The smell of coffee mingled with the scent of pastries from the shop across the street. I realized I hadn't truly noticed these small things in a long time. Maybe when people are hurting, they only see the pain and forget that the world keeps moving gently around them. At noon, I met some old friends. We sat in a small cafe, talking about work, trivial things, never mentioning love or loss. I smiled, feeling like I was coming back, not fully, but enough not to feel lost. Amid the laughter, I felt the emptiness inside me, but this time it didn't scare me. That emptiness felt like a room freshly cleaned, still empty, but ready for something new. In the afternoon, I went home, opened my bookshelf, and took out an old journal. The pages were yellowed, the handwriting uneven, but every line carried the breath of my younger self, dreams, desires, even the petty fears that now seemed so naive. I read a line I had once written: "If one day you leave, please don't forget that I once loved you with all that I had." I smiled. No tears, no regrets. I had loved truly, and that was enough. No further validation was needed. At night, I stood by the window, watching raindrops fall on the glass. Outside, the city still shone bright. People walked, loved, broke up, promised, betrayed us if no one had ever paused to hurt. I felt a strange calm settle inside me. I put on music, not a sad ballad, but a soft, slightly vintage jazz. The sound filled the small room. I poured myself a cup of tea, sat on the sofa, and felt like I was finally talking to myself after months of silence. I realized that there is no real ending. There are only chapters closing to let new ones begin. She had been a part of my story, important, but not the whole story. I didn't need to erase her from memory, because forgetting isn't healing. I just needed to learn to live with it, and let it rest quietly. I began writing new things, not to send to anyone, but to remember myself. I wrote about unfinished dreams, the book I had wanted to finish, the trip I had promised myself but never dared to take. Every word I wrote made my heart lighter, my breath steadier. I realized that some losses don't need to be filled, they just need to be acknowledged before going to sleep. I checked the photos on my phone. No pictures of her remained, but a few recent snapshots caught the sunset after rain, a morning coffee, and golden light reflecting on water. I stared at them for a long time, then smiled. Perhaps this is how the heart heals, not with someone new, but with oneself, stronger, calmer, and finally awake. I turned off the lights and lay down. In the darkness, I heard the rain slowly fade, and in that silence, For the first time, I felt no fear. I knew that when I woke up tomorrow, the world would still be the same, only I, finally, had truly stepped out of the darkness. The next morning, I woke up without the emptiness that had haunted me before. There was no lingering sense of loneliness, a rare, quiet calm. I made a cup of hot coffee and stood by the window. A light mist hung over the rooftops, and weak yet warm sunlight filtered through the leaves. For the first time in months, I truly felt alive, every breath, every heartbeat fully present. I decided to go outside, not to forget, but to take new steps forward. I walked along familiar streets, but this time I saw everything differently. No longer drowned in the past, I noticed every small detail. The movement of people passing by, the sound of a bicycle bell, the rustle of leaves in the breeze. Ordinary things, yet miraculous in their own quiet way. Along the way, I stopped at an old bookstore. Worn, faded book covers gave off the faint scent of ink and paper. I picked up a few volumes, flipping through passages. Some lines made my chest ache slightly, but this time it was from empathy, not pain. I bought a few books and took them home, letting other stories become companions, filling the void she had left behind. Each book felt like a door opening to a new world, reminding me that I could still find joy, curiosity, and inspiration in the afternoon. I signed up for a painting class I had long wanted to try. My hands trembled as I held the brush, but soon that feeling gave way to excitement. Colors spread across the paper. Rough but sincere strokes gave me a sense of control, a feeling that I could create something entirely my own. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again, unbound by memories or old pain. I looked at the unfinished paintings and realized each brushstroke was a part of my soul's journey toward healing. On the way home, I walked through the park. Trees cast shadows on the wet paths. Fountains gurgled softly. Children's laughter echoed in the distance, all reminding me that life goes on, and I still had the chance to live, to love, to find joy in my own way. I paused on a bench, sitting quietly, breathing deeply, listening to the wind whistle through the branches. At that moment, I understood. Stepping out of the darkness isn't about running from the past, it's about seeing the world with new eyes, living for myself. Back home, I opened a new journal. No more lines about pain or longing for someone else. I wrote about what I wanted to do: a short trip, cooking a proper dinner, finishing a book, completing a painting. Each goal felt like a stone placed on a new path, creating gentle ripples to replace the turbulent waves left behind by my old love. That evening, I stood by the window, watching the city lights reflect on the river after rain. I exhaled not out of sadness, but because I realized how much I had changed. I no longer sought validation from the past, no longer waited for apologies or signs of regret. I had found peace within myself. I closed my eyes, feeling my own breath, and for the first time in months, I felt my heart open, ready to embrace whatever comes next. I knew the road ahead was still long, still full of lonely days and challenges, but now I was no longer afraid. Stepping out of the darkness isn't the end, it's the beginning of new steps, a life where I am at the center, deciding my own pace, joy, and sorrow. The next morning, I woke up with a strange feeling. No longer any of the old wounds of the past stabbing at me. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, spilling across my desk where my new journal and a few freshly painted canvases sat. I took a deep breath, as if trying to inhale all the peace spreading gently through the room. For the first time in months, I didn't feel emptiness or loss. Instead, a warmth settled in my chest, subtle, comforting, yet unmistakably real. I sat by the window, watching the city. It was still bustling, but everything looked different now. I no longer saw it with hollow eyes. I observed with a quiet attentiveness. I noticed the private stories of the people passing by, a little joy, a quiet sorrow, fleeting moments I had once overlooked, an elderly woman walking her dog, a boy chasing his own shadow, couples holding hands, ordinary things, yet filled with the pulse of life I had thought lost forever. I smiled. Perhaps these simple things were the most important after all. In my inbox, the email from the unknown address still sat there, unopened. I looked at it, but my hands no longer trembled. I didn't open it, didn't delete it, just left it there, as if to acknowledge that the past had existed, but no longer controlled me. I knew that some apologies arrived too late, and sometimes all you need to do is let go and keep moving forward. In the afternoon, I went for another walk. My footsteps were light on familiar streets, but this time I didn't glance back. I listened to the rustle of leaves, the laughter of children, the soft hum of life flowing all around me. I paused at a small cafe, inhaling the rich aroma of coffee, watching people converse and laugh. For the first time in months, I felt part of the world, not a distant observer. I noticed the smallest details, the barista's sparkling eyes, the clinking of cups, the faint scent of toasted bread. Each detail reminded me that life goes on, and I still had the chance to live. That evening, I sat by the window with my new journal, writing down plans, dreams, and steps I wanted to take for myself. I wasn't writing for anyone else, but to affirm to myself that I was still alive, still capable of self-love, still ready to open my heart to the future. I wrote about trips I wanted to take, meals I wanted to cook, books I wanted to read, paintings I wanted to finish. Each line felt like a stone dropped into the river of my soul, creating gentle ripples to replace the turbulent waves left behind by my old love. Before going to bed, I looked round my room. The paintings I'd made, the books I'd read, small objects filled with memories. All of them were traces of a journey from pain and loneliness to the realization that peace doesn't come from someone else, comes from oneself. I closed my eyes, breathing steadily, and for the first time in months, I felt my heart open. No regrets, no sorrow, just me whole, strong and free. In the stillness of the night, I understood that endings don't always mean loss. Sometimes they are about finding yourself amidst the fragments of the past. I smiled quietly, realizing that true peace doesn't come from anyone else, but from learning to love yourself, to live with what has passed, and to open your heart to what's ahead. I stepped onto the balcony, looking down at the city lights, reflecting on the river after the rain. The night breeze brushed my face, reminding me I was alive, still feeling every rhythm of the world. I heard the distant hum of traffic, the joyful laughter of a group of teenagers, and for the first time in months, I felt no emptiness. I understood that happiness isn't about being free from pain. It's about learning to live alongside it and finding peace within yourself. I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, and for the first time in months, felt complete. The city would keep moving, people would still love, fail, promise, betray. But I, for the first time, was unafraid. I had found myself, and that was all I needed. And in that moment, I realized that life isn't about what we lose. It's about what we learn, what we keep for ourselves, and how we step forward through every storms, stronger, calmer, freer.